So the last part of the lecture, we are going to describe how policies influence us and name some of your daily decisions affected by the policies and the laws and the ethics. So why do we have environmental policy? Why do we have laws? Have to have laws? If we do not have laws, what is going to protect us from the air pollution, from the traffic, from the power plants, just to name two of them. Of course, it's many more. And I want to point out the Clean Air Act is a major success story in the history of the United States. If we compare 1980 and 2015, we can see the major air pollutants were greatly decreased because enactment of this law. They are decreased at least 30 to 40%. For the lead, it's about 100%. Why? Now you can remember what you read in the first chapter about that scientist, right? So the left side picture is New York City in 1973, and the right one is 2013. And thanks to the Clean Air Act, we are now living in a clean environment. Like on the right side, without that, if we don't have that law, we're still living in an environment like this, the horrible smog and the particulate matters, floating in the air. I want to mention major environmental laws in the United States. Our textbook does not require you to know, but I require you to know about those laws. If you do not know, Google those laws and understand the goals and the results of enforcing those laws. The first one is the NEPA. That's the cornerstone of the environmental policy. And Clean Air Act regulates air emissions. Clean Water Act protects water. They all passed around 1970s. That was even before I was born. And although that was a long time ago, about like 50 years ago, they are very important. And they are still working. And now the president administration do not like those laws. So I'm going to let you read some articles and make your own decisions. Are those laws still important or they're not valid anymore? Endangered Species Act, needless to say, that's to protect the wildlife. Superfund, Superfund is about cleaning heavily contaminated sites. One example is a coal mining site. Okay, we have some horrible sites, mining sites sitting there and producing tons of pollutants every day, and nobody clean it up. And thanks to this law, companies and the government start to clean up those sites. So to make government policies, which are laws, regulations, and court rulings, I feel like it's necessary to introduce to you the government branches. So the Congress is to pass a law, and President then sign an order to say this law takes effect. Okay, that's executive order. And finally, it's the courtroom. It's the court's job to decide who is right and who is wrong. And this is a complicated process, how a law was passed. First, you have a great idea, you have a bill, then you have your partners, sponsors, okay? You bring to the House and the Senate and refer to the committee and to the subcommittee. And after the hearings, people reviewing it and they decide if it's worthy of going on or it's not a good idea. So if it fails, you still think it's worthy of doing it, you go back to the subcommittee and they circle over and over again until it's passed. And eventually, after the floor debate is passed, it goes to the conference committee to reconcile differences. So it's going through this remodification process, and finally, congratulations, a law was born. So environmental laws, policies address two issues, pollution and natural resource management. Natural resource management go back when the Industrial Revolution started. And the first national park in the United States is Yellowstone. I attach a picture of Yellowstone on the left side. And this is a slide to list the agencies that are responsible to carry out the laws. I need to point out, every time in your textbook you see a beautiful picture like this, you want to browse all the parts of the picture. There is one in chapter 1 about the environmental impacts. And it did such a good job in summarizing all the environmental impacts. I mean, in the figure of chapter 1, this is chapter 2. So this figure did a fabulous job to summarizing all the important laws in our daily life. So please spend a few minutes to overview it. So it's up to the federal government to make the minimum standards for the environmental regulations, and it's the state's job to enacting their own policies. Some states are stricter. For example, the air pollution, California has a stricter regulations because California used to suffer terrible smog. And another example is Texas. State agencies like Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, Public Utility Commission, Texas Park and Wildlife Department oversee a wide range of policies. So if you go to a state park, that's probably the territory of Texas Parks and Wildlife. They regulate the park and then maintain them, clean, protect all the lives in the park. Last thing I want to say is please vote, because election results can have large environmental impacts. The people you select or eventually elected will have big powers in making the decisions. Last thing I want to mention is global environmental politics. As time goes by, this is a trend. More and more countries united together to address global environmental concerns. And remember the figure I showed you, as time passed by, more and more countries join those international agreements to protect the air, water, wildlife, oceans, etc. And here give you a graph to show you when those important international agreements were born in the history. What can I do? First, you can access your economic power, which is your purchase power, to decide which product to consume, to buy, which not to buy. And maybe you think one person does not change the world. That is wrong. Many people unite together, and I always start up with a small portion of people. And then, now I want to mention the BPA product, the baby bottle, right? So eventually people start a campaign that banned that products. So I leave the rest of you to review. You can run for office, even as a college student or after you graduate. So there's a lot of ways we can influence politics. All right, this is concluding my last part of the lecture.